It's a whopping outrage. I'm freezing. This is so unfair. Those were all the words from Donald Trump on day 3 of the criminal trial, where Donald Trump is being treated like other criminal defendants in a Manhattan courtroom. A big update after day 3. 12 jurors have been selected, and one of the alternate jurors have been selected. So we are almost completely through the jury selection process. Take a look at our day 3 scorecard right there of everything that went down. Don't worry, we will cover it in detail on this show. But one of the things that happened this morning, though, was we actually lost 2 of these sworn in jurors. You heard that right. And one of them, juror number 2, said that she could no longer be fair or impartial after her identity was essentially revealed through media reports, and Donald Trump then reposted right-wing media host Jesse Waters, who did a whole segment on juror number 2, not by name, but with enough identifying information. And Jesse Waters said, I don't know about juror number 2. I don't know about her. And that things has real impact, folks, on what's happening. And so we will break that down for you in more detail. Also, we're going to talk about how Judge Eileen Cannon made a very surprising order, I guess, for Judge Cannon, denying the motion to dismiss the indictment by Donald Trump's co-defendants, Waltine Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, in the Mar-a-Lago document case where Donald Trump stole nuclear codes and Donald Trump stole other national defense information. We exposed on MeidasTouch.com with our great editorial staff one of Donald Trump's sham scams that he does, where he kind of creates fake audiences around him. The most recent one was after day 2, Donald Trump left and said, I'm going to a bodega. I don't even think Donald Trump knows what a bodega is, but he went to Harlem. Then there was a small crowd around him cheering for him. And just like we exposed last week when Donald Trump left a billionaire gathering at Buckhead to go to a Chick-fil-A in Atlanta, and a woman hugged him who Donald Trump said, look, this shows that I have all the support from African-American women. And she's like, we all love you, Donald Trump. Turns out she was a Republican consultant who had previously worked for a right-winger, Charlie Kirk. This bodega event was organized by the New York Young Republicans, and they were the ones interspersed, or as Donald Trump would like to say, interposed throughout the crowd, cheering him on. Another AstroTurfed event that legacy media bought hook, line, and sinker. Not us here at the MeidasTouch Network who called that out. We'll give you the anatomy of Donald Trump throwing these sham events. A bad day all around for Donald Trump in court as well. In the Washington, D.C., and a Washington, D.C. federal court, federal judge Amit Mehta denied Donald Trump's request to stay the civil lawsuits that have been filed against him and proceeding against him for the injuries he caused people on to the January 6th insurrection. Then we should talk about Maga Mike. Is it bye-bye for Maga Mike? Maga Mike not MAGA enough, apparently, after introducing some legislation in the House of Representatives to hopefully fund Ukraine after Russia's unlawful invasion. That was a step too far for the MAGAs, and they are calling for Maga Mike to be removed, just as they had previously removed Kevin McCarthy. We'll talk about all of that and more here on the MeidasTouch podcast. In other words, another not so busy day. We'll also talk about President Biden in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and I think Jordy was there as well. Brett, how are you?
All across Pennsylvania, President Biden making his way around the Commonwealth. Pretty cool. He was in your hometown, Jordy, and we'll get to more on that. Don't you worry. But yeah, I love Jordy's holding up the Steelers hat, black and yellow, black and yellow, black
hat, helmet. You guys and your sports knowledge is just the funniest. We all came from the same parents. Why don't hat? Okay.
I clearly, Jordy, I clearly meant helmet. Okay. Stays in the pod. stays in the pod. The show must go on. No, Ben, anytime I hear you say the words, Trump had a very bad day, I know that means America had a good day. And so because justice is being done, and it was interesting to watch this morning with all the drama that was happening at the courthouse with jury selection, how he went from 6 jurors down to 4 jurors. And then all of a sudden that afternoon session just seemed to speed along. And all of a sudden felt like almost in no time, it was, we have a jury, folks. We just need to get the alternates and then we'll be ready to get to the opening argument. So this thing is going ahead. Obviously, you never know what tomorrow is going to bring. No one could predict. And hopefully this is the jury that sticks, but this is happening. And Donald Trump is a criminal defendant in a New York criminal court. And things are getting very, 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 very real for him. Jordy, what's new in PA?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great, man. A lot of new stuff here. We'll get to it maybe later on the pod, maybe next pod. I don't know. Who knows? But it's great to see you, brothers. And I'm just ready to get into it today. Ben, where are we leading off?
Well, I should also mention, by popular demand, a Justice Juan Merchan emoji will be released for the YouTubers today. If we hit, I'll say 350 new members, we will unlock the Justice Juan Merchan emoji. So click the membership button on the bottom. I know everybody wants the Justice Juan Merchan emoji. We will release that into the chat room.
And Ben, real quick, let me just jump in here. So I know there was some requests from some mods to help keep count with the memberships as we go, because I do my best to keep count, but I'm also doing the pod. It's tough sometimes, quite frankly. So I'm throwing it to you, the mods out there. Y'all are amazing. We're so supportive. If you guys want to help me keep count, and that way we know where we're at throughout the show, that'd be fantastic. The goal is 350.
Brett, you know the movies that start at the end of the movie and then kind of work their ways back to the beginning? Why don't we do, I love those types of movies, all of them. They're all great. Let's do that right here.
Good storytelling technique.
Let's show you exactly what happened at the end of day 3. And this is when Donald Trump left, and as he was leaving the criminal trial, he said, "This is a whopping outrage. It's an outrage, everybody." Here, play this clip.
Bragg crosses the Rubicon, indicting Trump on nonsense. The whopping outrage in Trump's indictment. It's a whopping outrage, and it is an outrage. Everybody's outraged by it. We had 18 DA or DA types or close. 18 or 19 or 21, if they counted all them in and out like that. And in the meantime, you have murders going on right outside in New York.
We have 18, 36, 36 million, 3.6 billion, a trillion, 1 gazillion. There was 1 gazillion DAs happening. And then he's flipping through, I guess the lawyers wanted to keep him busy so that he's not threatening and harassing jurors. So it looks like they made for those listening on audio, it seems that Donald Trump's lawyers made a picture book for Donald Trump I'm not kidding. It looks like he's flipping through a picture book.
It's headline and massive photo. You're so right. There's no words on those pages.
They gave him
headline.
Yeah.
So it's so true. Oh,
his lawyers created for him a picture book filled with headlines that they thought Donald Trump would look through. And he's flipping through the book the way that you would maybe show your child or grandchild. C-spot run. C-spot jump. C-spot or good night moon. And this is how Donald Trump's lawyers have to treat him. And so Donald Trump's flipping through this and he's saying there were 2 trillion district attorneys, 2.8 trillion, 50 to 100 million times.
It's really fascinating to watch. Like truly everybody kind of treats him like he is a toddler. Like it's kind of mind-blowing to watch, even in the comments at the end. And Justice Merchan, by the way, has, I think, really kept a lock on this courtroom in a very impressive way, especially considering the circumstances. I think he's been doing a really good job thus far. But even at the end, when he was speaking, and we'll get into the specifics here, when he was speaking to Trump's attorneys, he had to speak to them about Trump as if they were like monitoring a little baby. because Trump is just out there like a little whiny baby. And Trump, we've seen this now at like all of these various civil trials where Trump comes out, he makes his statements, he talks about how crappy New York is, like this is his MO, right? He just like says mean things about the city, like just nasty, just like a nasty guy. And then like we have all seen also how this ends. Like every time he has done this thus far, like this should feel like deja vu for a lot of you. He's done this already repeatedly. He has lost literally all of those cases by doing the strategy. This one actually has criminal repercussions. This is not a civil trial where he's gonna be able to just kind of pay and have it all go away. Like there is possible real jail time at the end of this, yet he is pulling the exact same stunts. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention also that crime in Manhattan, as he likes to act like, oh, you go outside, it's all this crime. Look, they're ignoring all this crime. Crime is actually way down in New York. And like plummeting at the fastest rate. It actually, crime in cities, crime across the country actually spiked, the biggest spike ever during Trump's administration. And it's now at the biggest drop ever under President Biden. And it's just this idea that he has to like, just try to tear everything down with him, right? He needs the city's horrible, the people are horrible, the judge is horrible, everyone's unfair to him. Oh, woe is me, wah, wah, wah. One of the funny stories that was going around yesterday was, all these right-wing kind of Trump propagandist journalists went to the courthouse yesterday to cover this case. And they were all stunned that New York wasn't the hellhole that Donald Trump and that they've claimed it. They're like, wait, where are the murders? I don't see the murders happening. I don't see the drugs happening. And it's like, yeah, because you're high on your own supply, man. Like, what do you think is happening here?
Yeah, their echo chamber never matches the reality because they just spread lies and then they end up believing their own lies. When Donald Trump was holding those papers, do you guys know what it reminded me of? When Kelly McEnany, when she had that big binder, I don't know why the MAGA Republicans go to this playbook when like they actually don't have any concrete evidence or stuff. They just hold a lot of papers to make it look like they've done their homework, done their research, and that, they have something to actually talk off of. That is the most comical but scariest thing in the world, that this man literally has a picture book that his lawyers put together for him to keep him distracted because he's a toddler. And if he does not get his way, when he does not get his way, he will throw toddler-like tantrums.
Well, ultimately, the media rarely holds him accountable for the stunts, though. Like, we'll talk in a little bit about day 2 of the criminal trial, where Donald Trump said that he was going to a bodega, and then he goes to Harlem into an area by a bodega, and he's surrounded by the New York Young Republicans, and Donald Trump gets the headlines like, he's in his element. Donald Trump looks amazing over there. And it's like, okay, you realize that that's the New York Young Republicans, and they do. And then Donald Trump goes to a non-union shop and he claims that's the Politico headline right here. I mean, how embarrassing of a headline this. Smiling his ass off. How Trump used the New York bodega visit to return to form. And we see Trump do this all the time. And this is like, we learned that Trump paid a non-union shop in Clinton Township $20,000 to pretend that he was addressing the United Auto Workers. This is just his MO that he uses. And oftentimes the media will just report the propaganda because it's just so easy to write, and they're also complicit in it. Donald Trump also complained after day 3 of the criminal trial that he was very cold, that he felt freezing, he said. Here, I think we've got this clip. Let's play it.
And it's a shame. It's a shame. And I'm sitting here for days now, from morning till night, in that freezing room. Freezing. Everybody was freezing in there. And all for this. And this is your result. Look at that. Each one of them a story. And it's very unfair. Very bad thing. Very bad thing. The whole world is watching this hoax.
And his vocabulary really consists of about 5 words. And then he has his picture book up there as well, that he's holding his picture book and saying it all consists of this. And it's the picture book that his lawyers made for him. Let's pull up the scorecard, Trump trial day 3. Let's go through all of the events that
people used to tell me at the casinos in Vegas, they pump the cold air in order to keep people awake. And so there seems to be a disconnect here between him being freezing in the courtroom and him constantly dozing off and falling asleep in court.
Ooh. Trump trial day 3, the jurors arrived. Juror number 2 was excused. She felt intimidated. She was the oncology nurse. who Jesse Waters talked about on air, not by name, but by description. And she felt that, numerous people in her family and friends were able to realize that she was juror number 2. And after that segment and after the attention that was brought her way, she felt she couldn't be fair or impartial. So she was excused based on a lot of the statements that Donald Trump had been making about jurors and witnesses. He'd been reposting a bunch of other articles, and he had been making comments that like his lawyers were catching liberal activists, which he's not allowed to talk about prospective jurors. And it's not even true. This was a Jesse Waters segment that attacked juror number 2, who's like as perfect as a juror as you can ask for. She had no opinion one way or the other about Donald Trump. Like, she went in with a blank slate. She's not a liberal activist. She got her news from diverse sources. But Jesse Waters said, I don't like her. I don't like that juror number 2. So pull back up the Trump trial day 3 scorecard. There were 7 new violations to the gag order that were added to the existing contempt motion that was filed by the district attorney's office that's set to be heard on April 24th. Then juror number 4, who showed up late, was excused because he did not disclose in the jury questionnaire that he had been arrested in the 1990s. I believe it was for vandalism or tampering with like political signs. And he had checked the box no when the answer was that he had been arrested. So could not be a truthful juror when that was exposed. There was a new group of 96 jurors that showed up. When the new jurors or prospective jurors showed up, when the prospective jurors showed up, Donald Trump did not stand for them. Just kind of, sat down and was kind of, just ignoring them, which is not what you're supposed to do. Lots of the jurors were asked questions about Donald Trump, and they really just said, "Look, I could be fair and impartial, but I really don't like the guy." And that was a consistent theme throughout the jury selection. That prospective jurors were saying, look, his policies, the way he's people, I don't appreciate it. It's not my cup of tea, whatever their response was to that effect. But Donald Trump had to sit there, and apparently his arms were crossed and he was slouching down and he was getting really upset when the jurors would say to his face, because he's normally surrounded by his bubble of just like right-wing cult members, when they would say, I don't like him. But the question is could they be fair and impartial? And that's what the jury selection voir dire process is all about, where you go to a group of prospective jurors, and they've directed the questioning to groups of 96. You go through the 96, and from the 96, you see if you can get 12 fair and impartial jurors, and then 6 alternates. And today they were able to select the 12 actual jurors who were sworn in. They completed that, and 1 alternate. So it's gone pretty, it's gone pretty quickly. And it seems that by the end of this week, they will have a full jury selected. And, I think we'll hear opening statements even start as early as Monday. So things are moving quick. The one thing to point out on that juror number 2 that I should mention is juror number 2 was a sworn in juror. She was on the jury, and then Trump had made statements about the jury. Then you had right-wing media like Jesse Waters do that, and she got scared. And just think about that behavior that you have, even if whether you want to, it's a president or any criminal defendant engaging in that behavior to threaten and intimidate a juror is just, it's so abhorrent. That's not what our system is about. And, whether this jury votes to convict or not convict Donald Trump, all I'm asking for is a fair or impartial jury, and conduct like that, as I've said, it's not just inappropriate. It should be met with jail, because anyone else who would engage in that behavior would be locked up. If we are truly a country of law and order, enough is enough. And if he continues to behave like that, Justice Merchan needs to throw him in jail. Not because I don't like him. And trust me, I don't like him. That would be the biggest understatement. But because we all should play by the exact same rules, and it sends a message that we're not a country of law and order if he can get away with that. I do want to show this flashback, though, to 2018, because Trump's been kind of changing the story a lot about these payments. it's unclear what his actual defense is. I know what he's saying publicly. Publicly, he calls Stormy Daniels a horse face. Just think about that. He calls her a horse face. Like, just that what do you, I mean, again, Brett, to your point, when they treat him like a baby, you're calling the woman that you had sex with a horse face. I mean, it's just gross. Like, it's just objectively gross behavior. Melania when you had an affair with Karen McDougal, and then you paid the National Enquirer to catch and kill stories of the sex you were having with women, if you even want to call it that, while Melania was pregnant. And then National Enquirer was like, okay, we can't do this anymore because it's probably tax fraud. So then you paid it as you claimed it as legal fees when it was hush money payments to Stormy Daniels, who you then had sex with when Melania gave birth to Barron. Like, it's just objectively gross behavior. Then you call her a horse face. But what's the defense? I mean, at the end of the day, it's falsified business records, period, full stop. There really is no defense. And one of the things that the prosecution also filed is what's called a Sandoval motion, saying, okay, Trump, if, we don't think you're going to testify, but if you do testify, here's what we're going to cross-examine you on, and here are all of the statements that we're going to say. And they're each a grosser Trump statement than the next that Trump will have to discuss if ultimately he does take the stand. But take a look about what Donald Trump said in 2018 when he was asked
Ben,
about
just to clarify my question. So the Sandoval, like that hearing will be about kind of what the DA, about like Trump's past behavior, stuff like the E. Jean Carroll case, other kind of comments he's made in those regards, is other kind of legal deceit and things along those lines.
You have to disclose to a criminal defendant before they take the stand, so they could knowingly waive their Fifth Amendment rights, the types of questions they would be opening themselves up for if they testified, so they don't feel ambushed. So it's a way to protect, under the United States Constitution's Fifth Amendment, you don't have to testify against yourself, right? So, and you can't point out to the jury, hey, Donald Trump didn't testify, that means he must be guilty. In a civil case, you can point that out. Look, Donald Trump could have defended himself and take the stand. He refused to. In a criminal case, you can't. You have a constitutional right not to testify and incriminate yourself. But what a Sandoval hearing is, and it's called Sandoval because there was a case with someone's name, Sandoval, and it was found to potentially infringe upon someone's Fifth Amendment rights if it wasn't disclosed, so that they testify and then feel ambushed. So it's basically a hearing that gives notice to a criminal defendant so they don't whine later, the way Donald Trump shows that he will whine. I didn't know they were going to go there or do this. I never would have testified if they were going to let this out. So it's like, okay, if you say this, you open the door to all of this information coming in, which as of this point can't come in. And one of the things that Donald Trump filed before, or right as court was ending on day 3, was Trump again wanted to hide any reference to the Access Hollywood tape. He's right now what Justice Merchan said, and I think Justice Merchan struck the right balance, because this case is ultimately a document fraud case. So Justice Merchan said, look, you can talk about the Access Hollywood tape because it is important foundationally for why Donald Trump was making the hush money payment to Stormy Daniels, because at that time they were trying to catch and kill all of these stories, because there was a video of Donald Trump out there bragging about sexually assaulting women, and Donald Trump wanted to hide and conceal all the dirt on him and bad stuff about him leading up to the 2016 election. So you can bring up the existence of it, but if you played the tape, that may be overly prejudicial. But you can talk about it. Trump's arguing, please do not even mention what I said on the tape, or describe it in any way. I think Justice Merchan is going to deny that, but that was one of the filings Trump made at the end of the day, Brett.
Got it. And yeah, let's go back to that Trump 20. This is in 2018, the comments that Trump made when he was asked about these quote unquote hush money payments. This is the answer he gave to Fox. And there's so much footage like this of Donald Trump kind of giving different reasonings. And in this one particularly, like he doesn't deny that these payments were done for that purpose. And I think all this sort of footage also is going to come back to haunt him in this trial.
Did you know about the payments?
Later on, I knew. Later on. But you have to understand, Ainsley, what he did And they weren't taken out of campaign finance. That's a big thing. That's a much bigger thing. Did they come out of the campaign? They didn't come out of the campaign. They came from me, and I tweeted about it. I don't know if you know, but I tweeted about the payments.
And so there you have I was going to say, you have Trump trying to basically get out of federal campaign finance violations in 2018. So he was giving one answer then, but that same answer is pretty incriminating for the state case against him. And so, he was trying to walk the line then. He thought he was invincible. And now answers like that are going to be devastating for him, quite frankly, in this case.
And forget real quick the context of like what was actually in that answer, just the way he's speaking then, and it's not that long ago, to how he formulates sentences now. Like I thought the man couldn't speak back then, and like that's not very articulate way of speaking anyway. But you juxtapose that clip from where we just listened to outside the courthouse today, and it's scary stuff.
He's like a demented guy. Yeah,
something's wrong.
There's no doubt about that, Jay. And I want to show you some other statements that Donald Trump's been making. I also, we have a pretty big announcement that I want to make, and I'm super proud about this new show that will be joining the MeidasTouch network. And after the Brother Show ends, that's where this new show will begin. It's called the Coalition of the Sane, and it is being hosted by a former Congress member, Denver Riggleman. And so Denver Riggleman actually used to be, of all things, on the Freedom Caucus, or the House Freedom Caucus, which is absolutely wild. But then he realized that they were absolutely insane. And
they were absolutely wild.
They were absolutely actually insane people. So the Coalition of the Sane is bringing together a coalition of people who may have different views politically, but who ultimately care most about our democracy. So in the first episode, there's going to be Adam Kinzinger is going to be on it. So after this show ends, it will bring you right to the Coalition of the Sane. So you don't even have to go anywhere. And
if for whatever reason it doesn't, I'll just say, if for whatever reason that is not the case and it doesn't bring you over, we'll drop the link also. You'll see it. I'll pin the link right now in this chat so you could click right to it.
And we're also partnering with Denver Riggleman, not just on the show, which, by the way, you can download the audio podcast. So you can search Coalition of the Sane wherever podcasts are available and subscribe right now.
Such a fabulous name.
Yeah,
it's a great name.
Great. We also are partnering with Denver on a YouTube page called Coalition of the Sane, that Denver is going to do new videos every day. So if you like the content we do here, and you like the content like Tennessee Brando and Adam Mockler and Talking Feds and the other ones that are partnered with the MeidasTouch Network, you're going to love Coalition of the Sane. You can search for it on YouTube, subscribe to the Coalition of the Sane YouTube channel. Denver's going to be posting new videos every day there, but the main interview, the show, is going to be on the MeidasTouch Network. So that's my plug there. It's called Coalition of the Sane. On YouTube, on audio podcast, and it'll be right here live after the show. Also, we've got the Justice Merchan emojis. Everybody, let's keep getting memberships, and we'll get that emoji out right away. We'll be right back after this.
No trailer, no Coalition of the Sane trailer.
Trailer.
Can't miss the trailer.
Hi, everybody. This is Denver Riggleman, and I've started a new podcast called Coalition of the Sane. In this election year, we're here to fight together to make sure that sanity overcomes crazy. We'll have guests from across the political spectrum. We don't care if you're a D, an R, an independent, or anything like that. What we care about is that you're sane, that reality overcomes the crazy that we see in politics today. Welcome to Coalition of the Sane. Only on the MeidasTouch Network.
Yeah, the show's incredible. Let's take
our first amazing trailer. That's awesome.
It's like, honestly, and the team Denver has also, like, his great production team. The music's original music. Like, this is going to be a really special show. And let me just break down, like, very briefly, Denver's resume for those who are like, oh, the name kind of sounds familiar. Not only was he a former congressman, he was a former advisor to the January 6th committee. He's a former National Security Administration, Air Force intelligence officer. He's He's a current AI tech CEO. Denver was like one of the big guys who did like kind of all the intel and tech stuff behind the scenes for the January 6th committee. He played a pivotal role on that committee during one of the most consequential times in American history. So to be able to get his perspective and with his intel on intel, with his intelligence on the intel world and everything he knows, and all of the kind of contacts he has within Congress and in the political world and stuff, it's going to be an incredibly fascinating show that hopefully brings the country together when so many out there are trying to divide us. And so we bring the country together under this coalition of the sane. That's the end of my pitch.
We'll be right back after our first quick break.
All right, Midas Mighty, I need to tell you not just about any jeans, but the Perfect Jean. Today's sponsor, the Perfect Jean, finally solved all your denim difficulties. They make great-looking, perfect-fitting jeans that are as comfortable as sweatpants. I tried them. I promise they are now my favorite pair of jeans I own. The secret, a special denim fabric that's super soft and has the perfect amount of stretch, so you could squat, do yoga, or just sit around all day in them without ever wanting to take them off. They make 6 fits from skinny to thick, and have a waist from 26 to 50 and lengths from 26 to 38. Big boys, short kings, tall dudes, and all the rest, they got you. For a limited time, our listeners get 15% off their first order plus free shipping at theperfectjean.nyc or Google The Perfect Jean and use code MeidasTouch15 for 15% off. My pair of The Perfect Jean are incredibly comfortable. They're stretchy in all the right places. They look great, and I cannot recommend The Perfect Jean enough to anyone who is looking for an amazing pair of jeans. It's finally time to stop crushing your groin in uncomfortable jeans by going to theperfectjean.nyc. Our listeners get 15% off your first order plus free shipping, free returns, and free exchanges when you use code MeidasTouch15 at checkout. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectjean.nyc with promo code MeidasTouch15, MEIDAS15. After you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Forget your khakis and get the perfect jean. Did you know that Fast Growing Trees is the biggest online nursery in the US with more than 10,000 different kinds of plants and over 2 million happy customers? They have everything you could possibly want, like fruit trees, palm trees, evergreens, houseplants, and so much more. Whatever you're interested in, they have it for you. Find the perfect fit for your climate and space. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to order online, and your plants are shipped directly to your door in 1 to 2 days. And along with their 30-day Alive and Thrive guarantee, they offer free plant consultation forever. I absolutely love Fast Growing Trees. By now, you have all heard me talk about the Meyer lemon tree I was able to buy at an amazing price. Fast Growing Trees has an incredible selection to choose from, and their customer service is incredible. And the best part, I save so much money by not using an overpriced landscaper. Whether you're looking to add some privacy, shade, or natural beauty to your yard, Fast Growing Trees has in-house experts ready to help you make the right selection with growing and care advice available 24/7. You can talk to a plant expert about your soil type, landscape design, how to take care of your plants, and everything else you need. No green thumb required. This spring, they have the best deals online, up to half off on select plants and other deals. And listeners to our show get an additional 15% off their first purchase when using the code Meidas at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com using the code Meidas at checkout. That's MEIDAS. Fastgrowingtrees.com, code Meidas. Offer is valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions may apply.
Let's go. Shout out to the pro-democracy sponsors, y'all. Fast Growing Trees, great friends of the pod. Definitely check them out. What I love about that read, Brett, is when you show the B-roll and y'all see the Meyer lemon tree, that's Brett's Meyer lemon tree from Fast Growing Trees. So these amazing products. Definitely check them out. And you know who's becoming a fast friend? The Perfect Jean's becoming a fast friend of the pod. So definitely check those out. Their jeans are incredibly comfortable. The links are in the description of both the pod and audio. Let them know we sent you. Use our codes. Great discounts. Appreciate y'all. It helps the show.
Trump only has a few moves, and he repeats the moves over and over and over again. And one of those moves is the whining. Then I'll move over to the move of propaganda. And whatever it is, he'll come up with a way to whine and to the victim. And he does it in a way that is, that anybody who had some level of self-respect would never do. But care. Because for him, it's always like, just they're coming after me. Oh my God, I'm just this billionaire who inherited everything from my daddy, and they're all coming at everyone so right, all of the privilege that nobody else could ever have. And I was born with all of this money, and my dad handed me all, but they're all coming after me. When look, remember the New York Attorney General's civil fraud case, where there was a whole controversy about whether or not Donald Trump could or couldn't get a jury, and whether it was an issue of Donald Trump's lawyer, Alina Habba, checking a box where she waived the jury, and then she claims no, the civil action would never allow a jury. Because what was Trump saying? Trump was saying, if I have a jury, I would win. It's so unfair that I can't have a jury. Remember what he was saying? Here, let's play this clip.
But if I had a jury, we'd win this case very easily. But I don't have a jury. And you see what's happening. This is a railroading. And it's the beginning of communism in our country. This is the beginning of communism. So we're going back in, playing the game and doing everything right. But just to remember, I borrow money, the statements were perfect. Not only perfect, the statements are much more conservative than my real net worth. My real net worth is much higher, not lower, much higher than the state.
So there he was whining that he didn't get a jury. And now that he does get a jury, he's whining that it's moving too fast. The jurors are actually secret activists who don't like him and who are trying to like cause him harm. He whines that he didn't know that you only have 10 peremptory strikes when quite literally that is what is the New York law. You have unlimited for-cause strikes. You could remove as many jurors as you want who can't be fair or impartial. But if you want to remove a jury for any reason at all, provided it's non-discriminatory, you can't remove jurors on the basis of gender or race or anything like that. You have 10. And Donald Trump.
One of my favorite things in watching this trial is watching Donald Trump and all of his MAGA acolytes in real time learn the basics of how criminal trials work along with us. I'm glad they get to get this education. Like when they're like, hold on a second. They're saying Donald Trump needs to show up for this trial or they'll put him in jail and it's going to last for weeks. What is this? This is an outrage. Yeah, that's how trials work. Actually, that's the 10 challenges. Where did this come? It's literally the law. And it just goes to show you, like, that's a microcosm of what Donald Trump and MAGA and all these people who push disinformation do about everything, right? If they're willing to lie to you about something that is written in black and white, that's like always been the case in our law, they will lie to you about anything. And I just want to point that tactic out because quite literally everything they say is BS, even stuff that are just facts. And they try to turn facts into debates. And it's like, this isn't a debate. Like, this is the law. Okay. Like, you could not like the law, but this is the law. We can't debate the reality of the situation. And that's one of MAGA's whole things in moving this Overton window is to turn any semblance of reality into a debate. Well, that's just your opinion. No, actually, that's not my opinion. That's that's what's happening here.
And all they do, Brett, is they continue to double down on these weird conspiracies too. Like, remember when January 6th happened and it was all of a sudden Antifa, they dressed up like MAGA. Now it's activists. They're dressed up as jurors. I mean, the stupid from these people just continues to show no balance, man.
The worst.
Remember that 2012 movie, The Dictator, with Sacha Baron Cohen, which was a parody of like dictators like Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi and Kim Jong-un. I think even earlier to like the South Park movie that I think I watched in high school with kind of Kim Jong-un and how, you know, America used to treat these kind of dictators abroad with kind of mockery and their tactics of surrounding themselves with like the fake supporters to give him the adulation that they're looking for. And we used to look at that and go, oh my God, look, could you believe how embarrassing that is? Well, that's the Republican Party now at every level. We'll talk a little bit in the show about how MAGA Mike's not MAGA enough. Somebody who wants to and who's advocated for the banning of IVF is not MAGA enough for the MAGA Republicans because he's agreeing to put a funding bill that could fund military aid for Ukraine. We'll talk about that in a bit. But like we talked the last week, and we've been breaking these stories at the MeidasTouch Network and at MeidasTouch.com. Hat tip to our great editorial team, by the way, at MeidasTouch.com. And you can see, for those who are members of Patreon.com/MeidasTouch, you could quite literally see how you're helping the researchers and the team we're having here break these stories that legacy media is not breaking. So our most recent story is busted. Trump's Harlem bodega visit was organized by pro-Trump Republican group. The New York Young Republicans were the ones who put this event together. They were the ones in the crowd chanting for him. And they got the headlines by Politico, like this headline, which was "Smiling His Ass Off: How Trump Used the New York Bodega Visit to Return to His Form." And this was after all the news that Donald Trump kept on falling asleep, and apparently a frigid room, which he kept on falling asleep in, apparently.
By the way, real quick on that, though, Brett, to your earlier point, why it was so cold today and it not, matching the parallel of something cold keeping you up, I think they made it colder so he wouldn't fall asleep in today's hearing.
Icing him out. It's
funny. Icing him out.
There's a debate. There's a debate right now going across the internet just to show you how stupid things are. Not to digress. But apparently Justice Merchan likes a colder courtroom. He likes a colder courtroom. Judge Chutkan apparently likes a bit of a warmer courtroom. And so people are taking teams here. Are you team Merchan or are you team Chutkan? Do you like a warmer room?
You raise a fascinating question, though, Ben. And not to go on this tangent here, Ben, in your work, in your line when you were practicing
I've derailed the whole episode.
Have you noticed different temperatures based on the courtrooms that you would go into, and you would pinpoint, oh, this person likes their courtroom a little colder, a little toastier?
I mean, I think that's life. I mean, I think there are different places that are hotter and colder than others. I'm not sure.
Here's a question.
I'm not sure that's unique to courtrooms.
Here's a question.
Before you hijack this episode and go on a tangent.
Here's what people, Ben, here's what the people are really here for, the tangents. So do you prefer a cold room when you go to bed, or do you prefer a warm room?
Has to be cold. I run warm. Has to be freezing. As cold as possible.
Track. Definitely
cold. You could always get warmer under the covers. It's hard to get colder at a certain point.
Exactly.
Anyway, remember the memberships about the Justice Merchan emoji. Let me bring it back. Look, our researchers took a look at some of these photos that were being posted by the New York Young Republicans who were there in Harlem, and then compared it to the crowd. And it's the same people who are the New York Young Republicans. By the way, they hosted an event in December recently. Remember, we covered that event as well. That's where Donald Trump said, "I met a great general. And this great general said, I've met a lot of courageous men in war who have seen death. And they've said that I've never seen anyone more courageous than you, Donald Trump. When you said that the Access Hollywood tape was locker room talk, when you said sexually assaulting women was locker room talk, that was the most courageous thing I had ever seen." Donald Trump told that story in front of this group here, the New York Young Republicans, and we've covered that here. But you just look at them. They're the ones who are there. Now, you compare that to the Chick-fil-A event where all of the media was covering Donald Trump just spontaneously showed up at a Chick-fil-A event. And then there was this individual, and she gave Donald Trump a hug, and she said that we're all with you, Donald Trump. And look, he must have African-American support in Atlanta because he went to a Chick-fil-A, everybody. And then her name was Michaela Montgomery. It turns out that she's a Republican operative. She's a consultant. She worked for Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk thinks that there shouldn't be MLK Day. Charlie Kirk thinks there shouldn't be black pilots. And this is how the media was trying to tell that story. Donald Trump tried to do the same thing about with the family of Ruby Garcia. Donald Trump just lied and said he met with the family of a murder victim, and that they told him all of these things about her. And the family's like, stop using our family. We didn't meet with you to tell xenophobic stories about, about immigrants, even people who were here unlawfully. There's crime that's committed by all Americans and all people. It's not just illegal immigrants who commit crimes. Take our family's name out of your mouth. Take Ruby Garcia's name out of your mouth. Then Donald Trump, of course, went to a non-union shop, went to people who were non-union workers. He gave them signs saying union workers for Trump, and then put out that propaganda. I mean, go back and look at, Gaddafi, look at Saddam Hussein, look at Kim Jong-un. It's the exact same types of images exact types of images that they create around Donald Trump. I do want to talk just a little bit about some of these other big court developments. Like, look, Judge Eileen Cannon did in fact deny the motion to dismiss and request for a bill of particulars in the Mar-a-Lago document case that was filed by Waltine Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira, Donald Trump's co-defendants. It should be noted too, y'all realize that she hasn't moved the trial date yet? I mean, we just flagged that for a second. Trial still currently scheduled for May 20th. Just think about this. She held a hearing on March 1st where she was going to be addressing the trial date, right? Special counsel Jack Smith and his team said, we think that we can do this in July because you haven't set any of these other hearings, right? Trump said 2025 or later. Judge Cannon said, I'm probably siding with Trump. I definitely don't think we can do this in July. But she never moved the date. It's still May. It's like, just think about like managing your docket. Like, what are you even doing? Like, so I want to say that, but she did deny it. Like, when I read her order denying the motions to dismiss, she basically says, based on the four corners of what special counsel Jack Smith put in the indictment, she's unable to dismiss it at this stage. So there's some of that language, like, I'm just basing it on what's said. I'm not saying what's going to happen in the future. And she's been making all of these moves because she does not want to get appealed at this stage to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeal. But she's also now made a mess of her docket because she still has this trial date that's scheduled and she hasn't moved it. And there's a bunch of things that need to happen if you're going to have this trial. Donald Trump also filed a motion earlier today before Judge Cannon to try to move dates and deadlines because he says he can't prepare like certain filings related to Classified Information Procedures Act while he's in the New York trial, as if, he doesn't have another set of lawyers who can actually do that work. And special counsel Jack Smith's like, you've known about this date for more than a year. Like, this is the most basic thing that you do in a case involving classified information. You have your SEPA 5. Like, what documents? It's very simple. What documents do you intend to use publicly that you believe are classified information? Just list them and you'll satisfy your obligations. But Trump asking for more delay there. And then we go to the district court in Washington, D.C., where Judge Amit Mehta denied the motion for stay filed by Donald Trump to try to delay the civil proceedings there. Trump said, because the criminal cases are still pending, you should stay what's going on in the civil case that's been brought by people who were injured on January 6th, members of Congress, members of the Metropolitan Police and Capitol Police who have sued Donald Trump. Remember in that case, Trump lost his claim for immunity in the civil case, then appealed it. It was the Blassenfeld case. Remember Blassenfeld? And then Donald Trump appealed it to the DC Circuit. But Donald Trump never appealed the civil one to the Supreme Court, which is interesting. He appealed on
Blassenfeld or Blassengame?
Blassengame, sorry. I'm confusing a friend.
Had an Alina Habba moment.
I mean, I wouldn't quite say it's an Alina Habba moment. I was just speaking to someone. I was just speaking to someone named Rubenfeld, and so I confused Blassengame with.
I had a feeling. I just wanted to make sure that the audience knew.
Okay, good call, Brett. But Donald Trump didn't appeal the civil case to the Supreme Court, so that case is proceeding. Speaking of Alina Habba, I'll let our audience judge for themselves. And me calling blasting. Okay, Alina Habba, when she was asked by the Second Circuit Court of Appeals how the Blassengame case fits into her theory, her response was, "I don't know what that case is. What's the Blassengame?" That's quite literally the case. Game v. Trump. So the fact that I said Blassingfield, she didn't even know what the case was about. So let's say that. Also, one of the things that she said over here is that the reason that Donald Trump was falling asleep, if he even fell asleep, was because he reads a lot. That was her excuse. So we can judge if me or Alina Habba, whose was worse.
This checks out.
Alina, Maggie Haberman was in the courtroom yesterday, and a reporter from the New York Times, and she claims that Trump fell asleep. I mean, Weigh in on this. Is she wrong? I mean, she very adamantly believes he fell asleep, and he says he didn't. What do you weigh in on this, please?
I was not there. I find that a remarkable story at best. President Trump, he reads a lot. I don't know what he was doing. I wasn't there. There are no cameras. I wish there were, but he's been sitting there as he's forced to, at the threat of going to jail if he's not sitting there for what I assume would be a very mundane day. They are going through jury selection. There were a tremendous amount of motions being heard yesterday. But no, look, I wasn't there, so I can't comment on that. I find that to be a ridiculous thought, though.
I wasn't there. I can't comment it, but let me comment. I think it's ridiculous. Donald Trump reads. What does he read? The picture books that you give him? Donald Trump reads a lot. Donald Trump is reading picture books that we're giving him, because we have to treat him like he's a third grader. No offense to third graders. Also, there were a lot of emotions. Okay. And what she even like I forget which lawyer was like, I'm still not convinced that she actually passed the bar exam, and we'll see about that. I want to remind everybody about Coalition of the Sane. It's coming up right after our show. Don't worry, we still have a lot of show. We got to talk about Maga Mike likely going to be removed. They're going to probably really bring this motion to vacate and get rid of Maga Mike any day now. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about President Biden in Pennsylvania and in Pittsburgh. Jordy's hometown, home city as well. I want to remind everybody again, the Coalition of the Sane is the new show that the MeidasTouch Network has partnered with Denver Riggleman. We partnered with Denver on his own YouTube channel called Coalition of the Sane. You just search that on YouTube, subscribe there. Denver will be doing hot takes each and every day on the YouTube channel. And also we will be hosting here right after the Brother Show ends, Denver Riggleman's show. And it's also an audio podcast now too. So subscribe to the audio podcast, Coalition of the Sane. And we'll talk more about that at the end of the show as well. I love the graphic package. It's incredible. Coalition of the Sane, a MeidasTouch Network podcast. And we've got a lot to discuss. Let's take our last quick break of the show.
Trade Coffee is changing the way you experience coffee at home. They continuously curate a wide variety of coffees from the best small batch specialty roasters in the US, then make personalized recommendations based on what you like or may like to try. Each bag is roasted to order and shipped fresh to you by one of their 50-plus partners. Listen, Midas Mighty, you know that I'm the resident coffee geek here at MeidasTouch. I would not vouch for just any coffee company. From dark roasts to decafs, espressos to cold brew and iced coffee, you could discover the best coffee suited to your taste with Trade. And it's not too early to begin thinking of the perfect gift for mom, dad, graduates, or your best friend getting married this season. Whether it's a gift for yourself or a gift for a loved one, you can't go wrong with better coffee. I personally like bright, eccentric coffees. I love a good light roast, so I told Trade my preferences and they've nailed it every single time. This is the latest bag I received. This one's from Kuma Coffee, a roaster in Seattle, and the freshness and the flavors are incredible. Plus, I never have to worry about running out because I know my next freshly roasted bag is going to be delivered straight to my door. Do you love coffee as much as I do? If so, you need to try Trade today. For a limited time, enjoy a free bag and up to $15 off select plans when you visit our link, drinktrade.com/Midas. That's drinktrade.com/Midas for a free bag and up to $15 off select plans. drinktrade.com/Midas. MEIDAS.
What if you could support family farmers and reduce your environmental imprint, all while enjoying the highest quality meat on earth? When you join the Moink movement, you can. Moink delivers grass-fed and grass-finished beef and lamb, pastured pork and chicken, and sustainable wild-caught Alaskan salmon straight to your door. Moink farmers farm like our grandparents did, and as a result, Moink meat tastes like it should because the family farm, let's face it, does it better. And the Moink difference is a difference you can taste. Unlike the supermarket, Moink gives you you total control over the quality and source of your food. You choose the meat delivered in every box, like ribeyes to chicken breast to pork chops to salmon fillets and much more. Plus, you can cancel at any time. Moink is helping save rural America. I love it, and you will too. Join the Moink movement today. Shark Tank host Kevin O'Leary called Moink's bacon the best bacon he's ever tasted, and Ring Doorbell founder Jamie Siminoff jumped at the chance to invest in Moink. Plus, they guarantee you'll say, oink, oink, I'm just happy I got moinked. I know I do, and you will too. Keep American farming going by signing up at moinkbox.com/MeidasTouch right now. And listeners of this show get free bacon for a year. That's 1 year of the best bacon you'll ever taste, but for a limited time. It's spelled MOINK box.com/MeidasTouch. That's moinkbox.com/MeidasTouch.
Let's go.
A lot of emotion into that one, eh?
A lot of emotion. I like that energy, Ben. Keep that energy, man. That's nice stuff right there. Be great.
Sizzle always gets me.
I love trade coffee. Love me some Moink. Fantastic.
I mean, look at me. Literally, my whole desk.
You got the trade coffee right now.
If you saw my desk, you'd be like, you're a mess.
Can't go wrong with either of those folks. So definitely check them out. They're fantastic. Discount codes, all that, right in the description. Audio on YouTube. Click the links. Use the codes. Enjoy some great products. Let's do this.
Brett, I have a question for you. Did Donald Trump just say 5% for the big guy?
Yeah, he did. I mean, this story is just so quintessentially Trump, right? Like, I'm sure a lot of people have heard about this right now, but it's beyond parody. Like, this is something that we would make up and you'd be like, that's a little like on the nose, you guys. But Trump is actually demanding a cut from the fundraising of all the Republican candidates now. He's demanding money from any candidate who uses his name, image, and likeness. And all of these Republicans, one of the big reasons why they like Trump is because they do use him for donations, and they go as extreme as possible, as MAGA as possible, to raise money. And so what Trump is saying is that if you use my name, image, and likeness in your campaign ads, you have to pay me 5% of the money that you
Trump's coming for the NIL.
Yeah, I mean, this is like literally like straight out the mob. Like, the mob doesn't even take that much. Like, it's absolutely crazy. This is like an actual quote. They sent a letter out to all these campaigns. They wrote, "We ask that all candidates and committees who choose to use," not going to say the word before Trump, "use Trump's name, image, and likeness, split a maximum 5% of all fundraising solicitations to Trump National Committee, JFC," which stands for Joint Fundraising Committee. But I think if you read it the way my mind goes to it, it also sounds like an expletive. Said the April 15th
shakedown.
It's such a shake. It's such a
shakedown.
It's such a shakedown. But like, is there anything more Donald Trump than shaking down the entire Republican Party for 5%? I mean, this is literally kind of been their whole MO since Trump took over the party. Lara Trump has already expressed her desire to spend every single penny of the RNC's money, not on down ballot races, but on actually paying for Donald Trump's legal fees. And now guess what? Anytime you Republicans, anytime you donate to now, like, basically any Republican candidate, you have to know now you're also donating to Donald Trump to pay his lawyers, to pay Lena Haba, to pay Todd Blanche, to pay for those pages in his little picture book. You're helping fund that. If you're
shout out Lara, man. Shout out Lara. She's doing a fantastic job.
She's doing great. She's doing great.
Keep it up.
Bless her heart, as they say. Ben, any other thoughts on this scheme?
I mean, no. I mean, I think you pretty much covered the scheme in good detail.
When Brett and I read this the first time, we were on the phone actually, and like we just said to each other at the same time, "This is just so like wannabe mobster, like just such a shakedown, and all so on brand for Donald Trump."
Well, talking about so on brand, though, I mean, I think that's a nice transition to all of the stuff about MAGA Mike, who's not MAGA enough anymore. Finally, MAGA Mike. Who even know what spurred this? But MAGA Mike finally said that he's going to introduce legislation on funding Ukraine aid in order to, allow Ukraine to defend itself from Russia's unlawful invasion. I mean, MAGA Mike's press conference, I thought, was actually the first time, where I'm like, look, this is to me where it should not be about which team or which trial. Like what MAGA Mike said is something that I actually agree with. He said, look, I think it's important that we provide weapons and bullets because we don't want to provide American bodies. I agree with that. The issue is, and that we all know, is that Vladimir Putin's plan is to not stop at Ukraine. It's Ukraine, then it's Poland, then it's the rest of Europe. That's his plan. And the moment Putin attacks a NATO ally, then we do have to commit our own soldiers. Donald Trump's plan of capitulating and giving all of Ukraine to Vladimir Putin is going to result in just that. And you just have the Republican caucus not just turn into MAGA, but MAGA is a branch essentially of Putin at this point. Whether they know it or don't know it, they are, because they spew word for word Putin propaganda. And that's why I'm like, Trump's a wannabe authoritarian. He wants to be Putin. He wants to turn America into the satellite of Russia. So anyway, MAGA Mike goes out and basically says, look, I'm going to allow a vote to happen. Just allow a vote to happen. Not even we'll put it to a vote. And then Brett, what happened from there?
Well, obviously the Republicans were like, you know what, you're our leader that we voted in, so we're going to trust you, MAGA. No, they're the same, the usual suspects completely had like a total freak out moment. And I do want to give a small amount of credit here to Mike Johnson, who is finally doing the right thing. Now, this is way late. This should have happened months and months and months ago. And so many lives have been lost already due to MAGA Mike's inaction here. But when somebody comes around and does the right thing, I want to acknowledge that they did the right thing. And I don't care if they have an R after their name or a D or an I or anything. So first, let me play Mike Johnson's remarks here so that you could hear what he just had to say.
I'm doing here what I believe to be the right thing. I think providing lethal aid to Ukraine right now is critically important. I really do. I really do believe the intel and the briefings that we've gotten that I believe Xi and Vladimir Putin and Iran really are an axis of evil. I think they're in coordination on this. I think that Vladimir Putin would continue to march through Europe if he were allowed. I think he might go to the Balkans next. I think he might have a showdown with Poland or one of our NATO allies. To put it bluntly, I would rather send bullets to Ukraine than American boys. My son is going to begin in the Naval Academy this fall. This is a live fire exercise for me, as it is so many American families. This is not a game. It's not a joke. We can't play politics of this. We have to do the right thing. And I'm going to allow an opportunity for every single member of the House to vote their conscience and their will on this. And I think that's the way this institution is supposed to work. And I'm willing to take personal risk for that because we have to do the right thing, and history will judge us.
Now, I wish he wasn't the person who had been playing politics for the past many months, who has been personally and individually, quite frankly, responsible for holding up this aid. But at the same time, I will give him credit for finally coming around. Do I trust Mike Johnson? No. But I'm going to hold him to his word here. And I think he needs to get this bill on the floor as soon as possible. From what I'm hearing, the votes on the aid are expected to come on Saturday. It's a fast moving situation, though, so things can change. But that's the current status as of now. And so the usual suspects are all freaking out. First, let me show you this short clip of Chip Roy.
Disappointed are you with the speaker?
Very. I mean, I'm well past the point of giving grace here.
And Matt Gaetz, the person who is responsible for getting Mike Johnson in this position after leading the charge and ousting Kevin McCarthy, he and Representative Crane and Massey, they all had their own things to say about Mike Johnson.
For hours last night and proposed different paths for the speaker that would have avoided the abject surrender represented by his strategic choice here. There's no other way to describe it. It's surrender. It's disappointing. I won't support it.
It's disappointing. It's completely detached from what our base wants, what our voters want.
The strategy is not to try. I think the strategy is to fall on his sword.
And of course, Marjorie Taylor Greene also needs all the attention. So anything that doesn't follow the exact things that she wants, it's treason. It's treason. It's anti-America.
Giving aid and comfort to your enemies. That is treason. So this entire foreign aid bill, by definition of our laws and our Constitution, is committing treason by doing so.
Okay. No, it's not. Ben, you're on mute. But okay.
Right, no, when you did that impression of Marjorie Taylor Greene,
you thought it was her.
Then went right into the Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Identical.
Do it one more time.
Really good at it.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Excuse me. 1 second. And scene. It's treason. They're coming to get us. It's anti-American.
Giving aid and comfort to your enemies. That is treason. So this entire foreign aid bill, by definition of our...
All right.
Yeah, that's really good.
It's spot on. I'm happy you did it because
I didn't know if it was really good or potentially offensive. Like I was way.
He's perfected it.
Really
perfected it.
You got to walk that line.
It's his best impression.
That's why people listen to this show. You got to walk that line.
That's a good impression when it's just right at that line.
I think I was better when I was spontaneous than when I thought about it, but I'll rehearse it though. I'll rehearse it in front of the mirror. But you know what? I like Marjorie Taylor Greene. I think looks kind of weaker than ever also. And these MAGA people all look very weak in this moment. And I like to see them marginalized. I like to see them shoved aside like the clowns they are. And I love that, the more kind of, if you want to call them that, establishment types and other kind of more normal Republicans are pushing back. And I love that the Democrats have this incredible bench that's pushing back on all this garbage. And so like Moskowitz, for example, fired back at Marjorie Taylor Greene, also went on Twitter and said the same thing. This is treason, treason. And Jared Moskowitz said, Speaker Johnson has not committed treason. He's the Speaker of the House, an American whose son serves our country. Enough. And we need more voices like that, because I think anytime that we could bring this country back to a place of normalcy and away from this just psychotic, sociopathic MAGA movement, I think it's good. I think it's good for our mental health, and I think it's good for the overall health of the country. Marjorie Taylor Greene also, she's not feeling so great about the future of the Republican Party. We're going to have no future as a Republican Party.
And the future of our Republican Party is very bleak. When Republicans in Congress can never follow through, when Republicans in Congress put America last and countries like Ukraine first, we aren't going to have a future Republican Party. Steve, we'll never win another election because we haven't given our voters anything to vote for.
Okay. I good. Fine by me. She keeps telling all the networks and stuff like, voters, you should vote all of us out. Vote every single one of us out. I'm like, okay, be my guest, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Right. You know what I say all the time is that these MAGA Republicans, they hate that they have the majority because they can't just live in conspiracy theories, because they actually have to try and lead with the majority, and they can't. And so every day now that they have the majority and they're unable to help the country in any aspect, they don't want to push the ball forward. It's because they're losers and they can't lead because they're incompetent. And so they're best served not being in any position of power, so they can just grift off their supporters as much as they want and complain and let the adults take over in the room.
They're like Trump. They like whining, but they're not. They're good at whining. I'll give them. They're very good at whining. They're not very good at governing or getting stuff done. A+ whiners, and just shutting down the unseriousness of people. First, I want to say, like, Fox even ran an opinion piece yesterday on their website that called Marjorie Taylor Greene an idiot who wants to destroy the GOP. And I think once like that's coming from places like Fox, kind of the knives are out there, and that people are just getting absolutely sick of her. But I particularly liked this powerful moment from Jared Moskowitz in Congress, because one of the most despicable things that Marjorie Taylor Greene does also is she calls anybody, it's this gaslighting. It's this kind of Russian propaganda. She calls anybody who she doesn't like Nazis. She says the Ukrainians are Nazis. She echoes Vladimir Putin's, though Russia's just trying to denazify Ukraine and all this garbage. And so finally, Jared Moskowitz fired back and said how just offensive comments like that were. And I found this, of all the moments this week, this may have been the single most powerful one.
Now, I want to address something else that went on in this committee by another member. And I say this as someone whose grandparents escaped the Holocaust. So my grandmother was part of the Kindertransport out of Germany. Her parents were killed in Auschwitz. My grandfather, her husband, escaped Poland from the pogroms. The idea that we pretend that behavior is acceptable and regular. There are no concentration camps in Ukraine. They're not taking babies and shooting them in the air because they're Jewish. There's no gas chambers. There's no ovens. They're not railing people in. They're not ripping gold out of people's mouth. They're not taking stuff out of their home. They're not trying to erase a people. They're Ukrainians. Stop bringing up Nazis and Hitler. The only people who know about Nazis and Hitler are the 10 million people and their families who lost their loved ones, generations of people who were wiped out. It is enough of this disgusting behavior using Nazis as propaganda. You want to talk about Nazis? Get yourself over to the Holocaust Museum. You go see what Nazis did. It's despicable that we use that and we allow it and we sit here like somehow it's regular.
That's the kind of sanity that we need. And by the way, that's the whole thesis of Denver Riggleman's show, Coalition of the Sane, which, as a reminder, is going to air live right after this show at around 9:30 p.m. Eastern, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. If you are watching this live with us, and if you're listening to this, you could check it out on our YouTube channel right now. You could subscribe to the Coalition of the Sane podcast. Jordy,
release the emoji. Release the emoji.
All right.
It is time to release the emoji.
The Justice Merchan emoji has been released, and just in time, by the way, because we're going to go through some of the other breaking news of the week here. Here's just something I want to highlight because, Sean Hannity had that moment on his show last week. These Fox hosts, they truly hate their audience, like just hate with a passion. We played this. We did. We played this clip on the show last week. Many of you may remember it, where Hannity said after the Arizona decision, where they the Supreme Court upheld the 1864 total abortion ban that was written before Arizona was even a state. Hannity goes, and Biden and the Democrats want to blame this on Trump. How could they blame this on Trump? They got a Democratic governor, right? They could make the laws, right? No, actually, that's not how things work. And by the way, the Democrats have now tried repeatedly, like over and over and over and over again, to try to repeal this law. And guess what? The Republican majority in the Arizona House has blocked it every step of the way, including yesterday when Democrats, not one, not two, but three times tried to introduce a bill for debate. This wasn't even to vote on the bill. This was to get to like the debate stage that would repeal the law that was written in 1864. And after one of the times where the Arizona House Republicans defeated this bill, this was their reaction. I wish they were that happy about, like, I don't know, like getting people healthcare, like helping like workers, supporting unions, supporting teachers. Like, I wish those were the things that they applauded and not taking away people's rights. But that's why Democrats keep winning, I guess, everywhere around the country. This week also, you may have missed this story. I feel like it flew under the radar, but Michigan Democrats scored major victories in two special elections. They've now taken back control of the House of Representatives due to these elections. And so you had Michigan's 13th district. You had Mai Zhang scored a win. And in the 25th district, Democrat Peter Hertzberg won. Both of these districts are heavily Democratic. These aren't like, big surprises that the Democrats won. But I think it's a really powerful statement, especially as we head into these elections, showing that the Democrats now have control of the House of Representatives in Michigan, a very important swing state, which until this point has been tied 54-54. And President Biden is also in the swing states. And Jordy, he came to your Commonwealth there in Pennsylvania. More on that in a bit. But President Biden, while Trump's been in court, President Biden's been working hard on the campaign trail, doing the actual work of being a presidential candidate. Actually speaking about, I know this is shocking, but presidents actually go out and they speak about policies. I know it's a crazy concept when you see what the Republicans are talking about, when you see what Trump is talking about. But here's Biden, for example, speaking about the success of the infrastructure law in Pennsylvania.
Thanks to my bipartisan infrastructure law, we announced over 51,000 new infrastructure projects all across America. So far, we're just getting started, including roads, bridges, ports, airports, clean water systems, high-speed, affordable internet, all across America. You may remember my predecessor promised infrastructure week after week after week for 4 years and never built a damn thing. Nothing. No, I'm serious. Nothing. And by the way, these projects are going to be using American-made material like American steel, American concrete, creating good-paying American jobs, union jobs. Why? As I said, I've already said it, but since the 30s, the law said we could do that. And that's exactly what I'm doing. We're buying American. We are selling American. It's all about America. We buy America, and past administration, including my predecessor, failed to uphold that Buy America provision. Not anymore. That's over.
Should be noted that speech was given in front of the United Steelworkers, who have endorsed President Biden. And I'm talking about actual steelworkers, actual union members, not fakes and plants like we were speaking about with Donald Trump. But Biden also had some jokes, Jordy, in Pennsylvania. Biden mocking Trump for his debt. We've heard about this line that he has used in private fundraisers. This may have been the first time that he broke it out on the campaign trail. It's a pretty funny line.
You know, I've already been delivering real results in a fiscally responsible way. But I know not everyone's feeling it. Just the other day, a defeated-looking guy came up to me and asked if I could help. He was drowning in debt. I said, "I'm sorry, Donald, but I can't help you." Nothing I can do.
It's really good. This is really good.
And then, of course, a great dig on Trump and Truth Social.
You know, I have to say, if Trump's stock in the Truth Social, his company, drops any lower, he might do better under my tax plan than his. Possible.
Another big news on the campaign trail with Biden today. 15 members of the Kennedy family endorsed President Biden. I don't think there's a stronger rebuke of a family member than having your entire family endorse somebody else for president. They held a big event also in Pennsylvania. Here is Kerry Kennedy, who is the daughter of Robert F. Kennedy, so RFK Jr.'s sister, speaking about wanting 4 more years for President Biden.
We want to make crystal clear our feeling that the best way forward for America is to re-elect Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to 4 more years.
A powerful showing, great momentum for the campaign. And Jordy, I got to say, President Biden may have met up with the Kennedy family there in Pennsylvania, but here he also met up with somebody else. Anything to share with the Midas Mighty?
I don't know. Are we sharing this right now?
I think we could do a deep tease. I think we could do a deep tease.
Well, as y'all know, President Biden was in my hometown of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania here, my current hometown. And I interviewed the president of the United States, folks. And I'm super excited for this interview to drop. It was incredible. Just such really an awesome moment. I was there. I was at the speech also following the interview. And just
with
to
the
see
steelworker,
with the steelworkers, and just to see him truly care about keeping jobs in America, keeping manufacturing in America, and how that message resonates with the American people and with unions. And they said it time and time again, and the cheers and applause he was getting there about how President Biden really stands with unions, quite literally the first president in history to stand at a picket line with the unions. And the union folks get it. They understand. They see right through the facade that is the MAGA Republicans, quote unquote, America First movement, when Donald Trump, does these photo ops with non-union workers, having them hold up union signs. They see right through that shtick. They know that these MAGA Republicans don't care about unions. They just frankly don't. And that President Biden and the Democrats truly do. And everything that President Biden continues to do with his policies and his leadership shows that time and time again. So to see that endorsement, from the unions and just in my hometown, in my home turf, just to see the support that President Biden was getting on the ground, I mean, it was infectious. I'm super excited.
You know why, Jordy? Because it's not just talk, right? Like you could talk all you want, but these are no BS people. Like, union workers are no BS people. They're really hard workers, and they feel personally the effects of the legislation, right? Absolutely. They know when they're working, they know when wages are increasing. The people in your state, when they look around, they could see that new building projects are going up, new construction is happening. Like it's something it's tangible. You can't BS that. And so, we had a similar experience when Ben and I went to Colorado, and we saw a speech there at CS Wind, the largest wind factory in the world, I believe CS Wind is. And we spoke to the workers there, and they all said exactly the same stuff that you were saying there. And so when are we going to drop this?
I gotta say, you caught me by surprise. I didn't know we were announcing it on here. So I just want to say too, I'm incredibly humbled and honored for the opportunity to interview President Biden, and appreciative of it. I think it's a fantastic interview. I'm excited to drop it, and I'm excited for y'all to watch it.
I'll say this.
Yeah.
I'm editing it. There's a lot of pressure. Jordy knocked it out of the park. There's a lot of pressure on me now to edit it. There's
balls in your court.
Are you trying to preempt what I'm about to say, Brett?
What is that?
I don't know what you're about to say.
That we are going to drop it on the Patreon in a rough format without Brett.
That's the kind of thing that wouldn't get approval if it wasn't a live show.
Well, why don't we show some of it? Why don't we show a little bit of what we have on the?
We'll go some behind the scenes. Why don't we do? Why don't we do a little bit behind the scenes?
We'll go through what I have, and
I'll go through when I was there at the steel building, and we'll show some behind the scenes on the Patreon. How about that?
Cool. That works. That works.
Right. See how Jordy mediates between the brothers right there. You said break it. You said break it.
Stepping in.
Go to Patreon.
I don't usually let my rough cuts out.
I thought you were saying that Brett was preemptively going to say that. Not that we're competitive as we're brothers. We're not competitive, but both interviews are great, Ben. Don't get me wrong, but my interview might be slightly better than yours. So I'm just deep tease.
Patreon.com/MeidasTouch. I'll see what I can extract out of Brett for the after show. And here's what we'll do. We're going to show. So in about, a few minutes, Coalition of the Sane is going to go live for the first premiere here on the MeidasTouch Network. So that's featuring former Congress member Denver Riggleman and former Congress member Adam Kinzinger. And I think this is going to be a conversation like you've never seen before, because they were both in the room where it happened. And so the types of conversations I think we're going to see from them is going to be, we're going to get very different insider perspectives. So as soon as this ends, if you don't automatically get taken to the Coalition of the Sane live, you'll see it in the live feed here on the MeidasTouch YouTube channel.
I pinned it in the comments here, so you could click.
You pinned it in the comments. Also, you should subscribe separately whenever you want to the Coalition of the Sane YouTube channel, which is now officially partnered with the MeidasTouch Network.
And that's in the description of this podcast.
And the audio podcast, Coalition of the Sane. Let me show you the trailer one more time. Let's play it.
Hi, everybody. This is Denver Riggleman, and I've started a new podcast called Coalition of the Sane. In this election year, we're here to fight together to make sure that sanity overcomes crazy. We'll have guests from across the political spectrum. We don't care if you're a D, an R, an independent, or anything like that. What we care about is that you're sane, and that reality overcomes the crazy that we see in politics today. Welcome to Coalition of the Sane. Only on the MeidasTouch Network.
9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, right here on the MeidasTouch live feed. You can also download the audio podcast, Coalition of the Sane. You could also subscribe to the YouTube channel, Coalition of the Sane. Folks, the MeidasTouch Network continues to expand. thanks to your support, thanks to our pro-democracy sponsors. One of the ways you can support us is patreon.com/MeidasTouch, where we'll also do a fun after show, which we'll post after the Denver Riggleman premiere of Coalition of the Sane. So you can all watch that first.
Apparently you get to see my rough cuts, which by the way, I don't think I've ever let anybody.
We'll show as much as we can show.
As much as we can show some behind the scenes.
For the patrons, I'll show for the patrons.
All right, Jordy, take it away.
Shout out to the Midas Mighty!
Standing strong against the fascists, we sing our song. We will get it right whenever.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. The film Against All Enemies, which I co-produced with Ben Meiselas and this network, has won awards around the world for its up-close portrayal of America's insurrectionist movement. It premieres in the U.S. on March 29th on Amazon and Apple TV. Go to againstalllenemiesfilm.com or click the link below. But don't just watch Against All Enemies. Tell your friends about it. It's one more way to hold accountable those who threaten our democracy. Thanks, Midas Mighty. Let's use our power well.